I don't think the education system is ever going to be able to cater to everybody, you know, but it really should, honestly, you know. I mean, there's some kids that, I mean, look at some of the most brilliant people in the world who are like, yeah, I was done with school in 6th grade. And yeah, they go on to be like nuclear physicists and shit like that, and like brain surgeons. You're like, huh? You know, they didn't need that. And I felt kind of similarly in some courses where I was like, I'm wasting my time. For instance, math. Never used algebra. Never used pre-algebra. Never used geometry to this day.
Yeah, it's like
we still
you just don't need it. And sometimes it can offer insights into other things, but
yeah,
it's almost like I think that should be explored if it needs to be explored, like or just for fun, not you have to do this. Because as soon as it's you have to do this, like especially when we're stressing kids out, and that often results in like those behavioral outbursts or just defiancy. Like,
sure.
Like they're not assuming that you're doing this for their own good. They're assuming you're doing this because there's some sort of thing bad that's going to happen because they're just stressed.
Yeah, and that's kind of the early minds too. Is reward and punishment.
Yeah.
You know, and if there's not enough reward to outweigh the other, then and especially with a kid in fight or flight mode. That's really rough. But in a perfect world, we should really be trying to see what kids are interested in, and then focus in on their interests, obviously, because that's going to make them more productive and a happier person all throughout life. When you teach somebody, I had to learn on my own to go after what I want. We don't get that until we become adults. We're just trained when we're younger, to think a certain way and be a certain way, and this is the way the world works.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
It's not the Ashevillean way.
It made me think about, it was Ocracoke Island on the Outer Banks.
Okay.
It's like that southern tip. And there's this school that I asked to go and just tour and talk with the principal to see how they do things, because it's such a small island. And it is a true island. You have to take, it's like the shortest ferry there is an hour. And so I'm like, okay, there's these kids on this island, how big is this school? If the town's this tiny, and how does it operate when it's so small?
Right.
And it was fascinating. They would combine multiple grades, but by the time they're in middle school, they are encouraged, they basically do mentorships. It's not really traditional education anymore, except for where it absolutely has to be because of the state.
Right.
But they actually go out, and different businesses and whatnot, they'll sponsor them to go to the mainland, and if they want to study something there, and they spend time where they're just most of the day they're just working with that person in that profession. Just
that's pretty cool.
Just 100 years ago,
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. That's very much like that, of course, but 100 years ago, it was typically the kids are going home and working at home with whatever the family business was and learning that, you know, but that's...
This is networked in the community.
Yeah, I mean, that's still very productive and all.
Yeah, they ride their bikes home for lunch. Even the little kids.
Really?
They can choose to bring their lunch there if they want, but a lot of them will just ride their bike home for lunch. Go to lunch for an hour, come back. They just have free range. There's no gates or anything, no fences, nothing around the school.
Nice.
It is such a beautiful example of how I think I'm sure it's not ideal. They're probably painting the best picture for me because I'm there visiting, but it seemed like it just worked so well. The kids were happy, they were smart when you talk to them, but they're working at a young age, but it's not slave labor or anything. They're just
doing things they want to do, and they enjoy.
Yeah, they're encouraged to do what they want to do in life.
Sure.
Try out different things.
That's really the way it needs to be. I spoke with a lady, and I've never heard of another place. She, because I told her, I was like, you guys got to get a hold of the news and tell them what you're up to. I picked up a rider over at this place off of Leicester, whatever it's called. The name of that, I know. But next to, it was called Axville instead of Asheville. and it was right next door, and I was like, oh, there's and she's like, no, we're this, you know, in the same building. I was like, oh, what do you do? And she's like, we're in after school care. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't think anything big of it at first, but as we started talking, and I realized it was like a Saturday, she was in there getting donations and stuff. And I was like, I was questioning her more about the program and all that. And she was like, yeah, you know, we tutor the kids when they come here after school. And she said grades K through 12. And they also have like, I forget how she described it, but it was like a trauma program dealing with kids who come from difficult backgrounds and stuff like that. And they're educating these kids how to, you know, deal with their emotions and understand their emotions a little bit more and things like that. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? This is amazing. That's the way shit needs to get done. And obviously, you know, one of the big reasons why you know, a lot of places can't, and they can't subscribe to that, is because of personnel reasons, time restraints, you know, and things like that. But they've got this amazing program going. I was just like floored. It made the future sound so much hopeful for the younger generations, in the awareness of, we're not all the same anymore. You can't put us all in the same box and generalize everybody. We all experience life quite differently from one another, and what affects us and what doesn't, and so on and so forth.
For sure. Like, if anything, it seems like we're more different these days than any other time, because just influence from different cultures, series of little subcultures get created, and that's one of the things I love about just humanity in general. Like, we are so different. We're all the same basic creature, but we have such drastically different experiences. And not all are great, but some are amazing. Some are seemingly bad, but are actually really rich and amazing experiences. Some seem really amazing, but there's a dark side underneath. Like,
it's all according to the feeling that you put upon it.
Yeah.
You know, in essence, things are just things.
Exactly.
But what gives them meaning is the meaning that we put onto them.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I've had to kind of navigate through that myself a little bit, in dealing with trauma and working with my inner child, or doing shadow work, basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Having to look at some of those instances in the past and removing the emotion, you know, on top of it to help heal myself. You know, and not necessarily just, you know, completely, I forget what you call it, but separating from it, but just being like, because I'm a very logic-based person, like, nope, this happened, that happened, but I can see good in it, I can see bad in it, whatever I want to put on top of it, but I'm just going to choose to see it as a thing.
Yeah.
And that way it doesn't affect me as much.
Yeah, because at the end, you're right, it's like, it's just kind of what's happened, it's just where we're at. Like, there's not really a good or bad to it, it just is.
Yeah, I think that disassociation with things can be a good thing. I use it, you know, I'm sure a lot of people use it as a coping mechanism. And of course, like anything else, I'm not saying it's for everybody or it works perfectly. There's a lot of self-navigation in there, but I think that, you know, the idea that, you know, we have to protect ourselves, you know, once we understand the types of individuals that we are, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and things like that, you know, for our own good, so we don't, you know, break ourselves down, putting ourselves in situations or things like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. You know, I've always wanted to do like a podcast where it's kind of like a round table of, I don't know, 5-10 people, and other viewers would be able to watch in on live cams, individuals who would prefer to stay private and stuff, and asking questions, because I know that there's a lot of people with anxieties, you know, I don't want my name, I don't want my face, and things like that, but they can still go back and forth with a group of people in discussion on just basic everyday kind of life.
Yeah.
You know, I think there needs to be a lot more talk.
Oh yeah, people don't talk enough.
No.
Everyone scrolls.
Yeah, it's very selective. But I think the more we talk, the more we find out how much we do have in common.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be everything, but you know, we can start with the basic thing. We're all human.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. We're social creatures who aren't socializing enough.
Yeah. Yeah, or maybe even socializing in the proper ways anymore.
Yeah.
You know, there's something to be told, you know, in the childhood that I grew up in, you know, where there were no devices and stuff to stick your face in constantly, and all the dopamine stimulants that are out there between food and video and digital now. And, you know, we had to go and create our own worlds, you know, and build forts and ride bikes and do stuff outside. And, you know, we created a world. You know, I guess digitally you can create a world, but most of the time people are just living in somebody else's creation. You know, I think that's the secret, is to break out and do it your own way, you know, yourself, and the way you like it.